Would I be the a-hole for leaving my fiancé because he wants a baby with his ex? I may just need a place to vent, but I don't know where else to turn. I've been with my fiancé Greg for 3 years, and we just got engaged last month. He was married before, and him and his ex Gemma had a stillborn baby. Greg says the grief of bearing their child caused Gemma to have a mental breakdown, and she was never the same. And that's why they ended up getting divorced a little over a year later. The two of them have been weirdly close for Greg and my entire relationship. Gemma calls him at odd hours to talk and pops up at our house whenever she needs to talk to him in person. They meet up frequently, and especially on the anniversary of their son's stillbirth, she gets extremely emotional, to the point that everyone worries that she'll harm herself. So the two of them have spent that day alone together every year that Greg and I have been together. I was never totally okay with the way Gemma clings to Greg, even if I'm around, but since she's mentally unstable, Greg says he's afraid of what she might do to herself if he cuts contact with her. I don't want that on my conscience, so I never push the issue and just tolerate her constant presence. But ever since Greg told her that we got engaged, it's like she mentally snapped. She shows up at his job, and the two of them have been having lunch together. And her calls and texts now seem like every hour. 2 days ago was the 4-year anniversary of their son's stillbirth. This is the 3rd anniversary since I've been with Greg, and he didn't come home at all that night. The next day, yesterday, he didn't come home until after lunch, and I was livid. He said that he spent the night comforting her and crashed on her couch, and made it seem like I was being insensitive to their grief for getting upset because he didn't answer a few missed calls and texts. We didn't speak to each other all yesterday, and just when I convinced myself that I was maybe being insensitive, he dropped a bomb last night. Gemma wants to have another baby with him, and Greg told her, get this, that he'd talk to me about it. What the actual hell? He told me that it would give them both closure, and Gemma won't be so clingy with him once she has his baby, so the two of us could have a fresh start to our lives. When I told him that not only is this idea insane, but only an insane woman would agree to it, he accused me of being selfish, for trying to keep Gemma from regaining something that could help her mental health. We argued, and I threw my engagement ring at him and left. I spent the night at my sister's, and I've been ignoring Greg's calls and texts. Last night I was convinced that I don't want a lifetime of feeling like the other woman. But today, since I never lost a child, I don't know. Am I the a-hole? I love Greg and I'm so heartsick over this. It's making me physically sick. Now for the top comments. It wouldn't give them closure. They'd be more intertwined than before. Not the a-hole. Stay unengaged. That's what I'm thinking. After she has the baby, she's gonna want him to play daddy and be a happy family. Plus, since they both need closure, how is he going to impregnate Gemma? And then supposedly ignore his ex and baby to start a new life with OP, he's going to also want to be in the baby's life as well? It would never end. OP is the third wheel and always will be. Or maybe they will start a poly family, but she will still be the second wife, and Gemma will be the first with the first child. Exactly, you nailed it. OP is just a convenient option right now, while he figures out how to juggle 2 lives and 2 women and a baby. That closure excuse is just code for emotional cheating or keeping the door open for his ex. And you're right, once the baby's born, he's gonna feel obligated to play family. Where does that leave OP? Always second, always waiting, always unsure. Girl needs to run before she gets trapped in someone else's unfinished love story. Not the a-hole. He thinks it's fine to have sex with his ex while engaged to you, spend hours and hours with his ex while engaged to you, impregnate his clearly mentally unstable ex, but especially while engaged to you. He's either delusional or a sick puppy himself. His ex is dangerously unfit to raise a child, and Greg's judgment is seriously bad in all regards. That's because they've been boning for 3 years. Why should boning with intent to procreate be so different? Time to leave. He obviously still wants her. Find someone who will love you without that kind of garbage attached to them. Funny how he was gaslighting her, saying that once she has the baby, she will go away. What? She will be even more in his life, with a legitimate reason now. Next story. Am I the a-hole for making it absolutely clear my wife and I are not naming our child after my dad's late wife who died a few months ago? Last year, my dad lost his wife of 20 years. A few weeks after her death, my wife and I learned we were expecting our first child. My dad saw this as a gift from his wife, and he and my half-siblings, all in their teens, expected me to name my child after her, either through the first or the middle name. My dad even argued that we could still use a masculine version of the name if we had a boy. This was not something I ever intended to do, and I told my dad we weren't looking at her name or any similar names for our child. My dad told me that made no sense given the timing of everything. My wife and I pulled back from him and my half-siblings over this. Their anger over the decision has been strong, and my dad has been trying like hell to convince me otherwise. He doesn't know the sex of the baby, but I know the name will bother him. We decided to honor my late mom in a less direct way by naming our daughter after a flower that was my mom's favorite. My dad will pick up on it immediately, and I know it will bother him that I chose to honor my mom over his wife. So, I decided to come in firmly and make it clear and leave no room for doubt that my wife and I are not choosing his wife's name or anything connected to her. I told him this is not up for decision or debate anymore, and the decision is final. And that the signs he and my half-siblings saw to make it make sense were not shared by me. In my mind, she had 3 kids, so one of them can name a future child after her. But she was not my mother, and I was not too fond of her. That's simply it. Her death changed nothing for me regarding that, and she's not someone I would want to name my child after. Ever since I came out and spoke clearly, I can see the anger in my dad and half-siblings has intensified. They haven't told me directly, but they rant about me to other relatives, and they have said I'm an insensitive a-hole. My dad even ranted to relatives about the length of time she was in my life versus my mom, and how disgusting it is that I wouldn't honor that. He does not know that we've chosen a name that ties to my mom. This is just him ranting. But I want to know if people think I'm the a-hole to be so firm about this, or for outright rejecting the idea even. Am I the a-hole? Your mom is also gone, and they want you to honor her replacement? I think you have too big of a heart if you're still considering their feelings. They're clearly selfish and entitled a-holes. It's your child, and you name her or him whatever the heck you want. Congrats on your baby. My dad believes I needed to honor his second wife over mom. It's not the first time I've wondered if he and my mom had a bad marriage before she died. But some of his comments have certainly made me question it more. It doesn't matter if they had a bad marriage. She was still your mom. Their marriage has nothing to do with you. You've had that woman in your life 20 years and were not fond of her. And that tells me everything I need to know. To be honest, their marriage may not have been bad, and your dad may have just been an a-hole from the start. True, it's just most parents wouldn't act like the new spouse that came along after was more important to the child from the first spouse. But it's possible my dad's just that way. Take a stroll through all the Am I the A-hole subs, and you'll find according to the posts that this is actually a really common occurrence. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not updating my ex about our child's condition? Let me begin with I am a 40-year-old female and have been divorced from my ex for 14 years. We have 3 boys together, 19, 18, and 15. I have since remarried and have another son, 6. He has since remarried and had a daughter, 9. Over the years, his visitations with the boys slowed and then stopped completely about 5 years ago. When that happened, all phone calls, gifts for birthdays and holidays, and contact stopped also. Fast forward to October last year, my 15-year-old had been complaining of leg pain, not being hungry, and sleeping at all hours. I had taken him into the doctor for labs, and to be seen thinking perhaps he had juvenile diabetes, which runs on his BIOS side. All the labs and exams came back normal, and was told it could be growing pains and teens tend to sleep a lot. I wasn't convinced and pushed to have him see my endocrinologist just to ease my mind and his. He went to the endo appointment, and she ordered lots of labs, but when they went to draw them, they couldn't get the blood needed. They told us he was probably a little dehydrated and to push fluids that night and come back the next day to attempt them again. Cue the end of our world as we knew it. My son went back to school to finish out his day and I went to work. After school, he got off the bus with his little brother and started to walk home. He tells me when he walks in that on the walk he felt like a bat had hit his head with how fast and hard the headache came on. So I had him lay down and rest for a few minutes in my room so I could monitor him. Things spiraled from there. About 15 minutes later, I realized this was not in fact getting better but worse and loaded him up to go to our ER. At our local ER, they ran labs and EKGs, and then the doctor said it could be from head trauma, and he would feel better running a CT to just rule it out. He then came back in and told us my son had a mass in his brain, and they were sending him to the Children's Hospital in the next state over. At the Children's Hospital, they did an MRI and found my son has brain cancer, and it was not just in his brain but his spine too. They immediately did a bedside procedure to lessen the buildup of fluid in his brain and scheduled a 12-hour tumor removal for 4 days later. Now at this point, I had not contacted his bio as literally things moved way too fast. My own husband had limited knowledge. I truly hadn't processed much as the line of doctors and staff seemed never-ending. In the days between MRI and his brain surgery, he and I and the doctors talked. We were told that until pathology came back, there was no way to know exactly what type of cancer he had and that it could be hereditary. My son expressed to his social worker, doctor, and I that he did not want his bio there or to have access to him, but that he was worried about his half-sister and felt he needed to protect her if he could. So we all agreed that I would call his bio and inform him of what was going on and that we would update him with a diagnosis when we had it, so he could have his daughter checked if need be, but that our son had stressed he did not want him there. Quoting, "You don't get to be a dad when it benefits you, and if you're not there on the good days, you can't be there on the bad ones." My ex agreed and told me to keep him posted. After surgery, he messaged me once 2 days later to make sure he had made it out okay. A month later, I informed him of the type and class of tumor our son had, and that it was not hereditary. Since this last message, the only contact has been when he changed my son's insurance mind inpatient, and I have made several attempts to get access to check coverage and copays. In the months since his surgery, he has undergone radiation and chemo, several surgeries, another emergency brain surgery, and maintenance chemo. Through all of this, I have yet to receive one message, simply checking on our son or his progress. I have, however, had to reach out more than once to get insurance information from him, each time it ending abruptly, after him having a meltdown that I am not calling or messaging him with updates on his son, or that he won't help me with the insurance, because I am not pushing any of our children to speak with him, as it's my job to encourage them to give him another chance. He also spent 10 minutes one call, explaining how it wasn't fair that I had made any medical decisions without notifying him first. That it is, quote, my responsibility to keep him fully updated on all things dealing with all our children, and that it is not his responsibility to call me for updates. So, long story short, I haven't been messaging or calling him at all anymore. I have sent the original divorce papers to the insurance company, directly stating that I am their sole legal guardian and need access, which I now have an actual insurance ID cards which they sent me, along with the policy book. Things are looking better for my son, and luckily treatments seem to be working. He has a few more rounds of chemo and a few smaller surgeries in the next few months, but his outlook is positive. So please, am I the a-hole? You are a great mom. Thank you for respecting your child's wishes. Remember to take care of yourself so you have energy to take care of your kids. Hugs. This right here. OP has been carrying so much, emotionally and logistically, and still made decisions based on what her son needed, not what anyone else demanded. Prioritizing his wishes and comfort in such a scary time is exactly what a good parent does. She doesn't owe updates to someone who's been distant and unresponsive, especially when her child explicitly didn't want that. Let me get this straight. Your ex is financially and medically abusing you and your son by messing with his health insurance while he's recovering from brain cancer? Yeah, you're the a-hole, sure. Not the a-hole. Your son is 50, not 5. Depending on your state, that means he is allowed to have medical privacy from everyone, including parents and guardians. He asked that bio dad not be informed. You need to respect that. That he tried to use the insurance to leverage the relationship with the kids is disgusting. He could have killed your son with that, as it could delay care. That's something I would have scorched earth about. Tell the older two about it and let them call their dad to express their opinions of him playing games at this time. Last story. Am I the a-hole for ignoring my ex's wife calling? I, 34 female, share 3 kids, 13 male, 9 female, and 7 female, with my ex Rico, 42 male. We split up 4 years ago. After I found out he was cheating, we didn't speak for a year, and he did the bare minimum with co-parenting. Since then, we have gotten better at co-parenting, with me having the kids Monday afternoons to Friday mornings, and he has them after school on Fridays till Monday mornings when he dropped them at school. He and one of his affair partners, Carrie, 23 female, are now married, and they have under 1-year-old twins. They live about 4 miles from me. Rico has recently started working extra hours during the weekend, leaving Carrie alone with all 5 kids. The first weekend was in early April and was a disaster and ended with Carrie calling me and asking me to pick up the kids and bring them back when Rico got home. I was annoyed, but I did. Since then, it has been a pattern of me picking them up early and then Rico complaining I'm not giving him his full visitation. At this point, I'm over it. I've been using my weekend to catch up on errands and have me time. I told Rico I'm not picking up the kids during his time to accommodate their schedule anymore and warned him they all would be blocked on my phone. I offered to connect him with a babysitter I regularly use who's familiar with the kids. He told me he can't afford it. This last weekend, I dropped the kids off on Friday and went about my day. Apparently on Friday night, Rico and Luke got in an argument. Luke stormed off. He does that. He usually walk it out and come back. Rico left for work, but Rose and Lily was upset about the arguing and refused to go to sleep. So Carrie was forced to stay up. She couldn't get them to settle down and tried calling me, but I had already blocked her number. She eventually ended up calling Rico to come home to help. Rico is now upset because he missed hours, and I made Carrie cry because she got overwhelmed. He's accusing me of being an a-hole for ignoring Carrie calling about the kids. I feel like it's their problem to solve, because they have to balance it all just like I balance it all. Am I being the a-hole? Not the a-hole, but I wouldn't block them because if something happened to one of your children, your ex wouldn't be able to get a hold of you to let you know. Does your oldest have a cell phone to call you if necessary? This should be upvoted the most. Do not block her. The risk to your children is too high. Well, I guess the 23-year-old is realizing it's easier to be the side piece in the story rather than the baby mama. Not the a-hole. Good luck to Rico in his next divorce.